If you draw any kind of check from the VA, three separate increases are already sitting on the calendar between today and January. Most veterans can name one of them. The other two arrive quietly, and nobody at the agency rings you up to mention either one. None of the three asks you for a claim or for a signature. They land on three different dates, and every date reaches a different group of veterans. Give me the first one before you go anywhere because it moves the largest single figure in the whole system, and it is the one almost nobody counts. Everything here comes down to one thing, making a VA rule simple enough to act on. The three dates come one at a time below, with the government page behind each of them up on the screen. October the 1st is the earliest of the three. No cost of living figure comes into it at all. That morning, the federal government starts a fresh budget year. Anything Congress funds by the year gets rewritten on that date, and several of those numbers move by real money for you. None of it makes the television news because none of it arrives as one headline figure. It shows up as a dozen small ceilings being quietly retyped. Here's a line you can pull up on your own tonight, sitting in plain sight on the VA's housing grant page. A fiscal year runs from October the 1st through September the 30th. Underneath that sentence, the same page carries the ceiling on the grant for a specially adapted home. For this budget year, you can receive up to $126,526. That money goes toward building or changing the place you live. The VA rewrites that ceiling every October. Check the figure each autumn, and you will find it sitting higher than the year before. Take a minute on what a number like that buys you. A ramp and a doorway wide enough to get a chair through. A bathroom you can turn around in. Ask the VA which of the two grants fits your case. A shower you roll into instead of a tub you cannot climb. A kitchen counter drop low enough to work at sitting down. Ask what the ceiling covers before you rule any of it out. The VA pays the builder rather than handing you the cash. A second, smaller grant covers a home that belongs to somebody else in your family. Who does that reach the most? Maybe you already know because somebody quoted you for the work 2 summers ago. The number frightened you off. You have been washing at the kitchen sink ever since. The ceiling has moved twice while you waited, and the form you would fill out has not changed at all. Your disability is exactly what it was. The money standing behind it is not. There is a reason you never hear about October the 1st. A cost of living raise comes as one number every news desk can read out loud. The budget year comes as paperwork. Nobody puts out a press release to say the housing ceiling moved. The figure just appears on a government page one morning where a smaller one sat the night before. Ask about that grant last spring, write the answer on the back of an envelope, and the number in your pocket is already out of date. 2 smaller benefits climb on the very same morning. The VA allowance toward an adapted vehicle steps up. That one matters if you drive with hand controls or if you have been waiting on a lift. Monthly VA education rates move as well. Those reach your spouse or your children when a veteran dies of something tied to his service or when he sits at a permanent total rating. Your grandchild halfway through a 2-year program is drawing money that got quietly retyped on October the 1st. The vehicle side deserves a minute on its own. You get a one-time payment toward buying the car itself. The equipment fitted into it falls under a separate rule with no ceiling of its own. Hand controls, a wheelchair lift, a swivel seat, power steering put in where the car never had it. The purchase payment is the piece rewritten every October. If a figure was quoted to you 3 years ago and you let it go, that figure no longer exists. What do you do with that? Ask the VA for the current budget year figure before you sign any contract or quote. A builder working from an older number hands you a smaller job than the one you are owed. The difference lands in nobody's pocket at all. Ask for it in writing and put the date on it. December the 1st is the date most veterans have actually heard of, and it touches more households than the other two put together. Take a look at the VA's own rate page, right where the tables begin. Effective December the 1st, that line sits above the whole table of compensation rates, and those tables are where your monthly payment is read out of. A veteran rated at 10% draws $180.42. 20% pays $356.66. Every rating rating above those has a row of its own with extra columns once a spouse, a child, or a dependent parent comes into the picture. The VA does not choose that percentage on its own. Congress ties it by law to whatever Social Security does, so both systems move by an identical amount and land on the same day of the year. VA pension rates follow the rule too, and so does the payment a surviving spouse draws after a service-connected death. Tap subscribe, and the next winter change will reach you while it still matters. Who does the December increase reach the most? Anybody carrying a VA rating in the 70s, 80s, or higher, because a percentage of a big number is simply a bigger amount of money. At 10%, an increase buys a tank of gas. Take a veteran at 100% with a spouse and 2 children. That same percentage adds more to his year than a low rating pays out in total. The men who assume the raise is too small to read about are usually the men it pays the most. There's a second half of that VA date worth knowing. Income limits inside the veteran's pension climb by that identical percentage on the very same morning. Maybe the VA shut that door on you a few years back on income grounds. That ceiling has risen every December since you were told no. No letter ever arrived to tell you about it. What do you do with that? Write your December figure down and keep it with your VA letters. The percentage is public, and your own arithmetic takes about a minute. Spotting a VA payment that came out wrong needs last month's number sitting beside this month's. Now for the date that catches people out, and it explains why a lot of veterans believe they were skipped altogether. Here's the announcement on the Social Security side, because you have no reason to take a stranger's word about your own money. The figure comes in at 2.8%, and the increase begins with benefits payable in January. Read the sentence sitting underneath that one as well. Payments to people on supplemental security income begin on December the 31st. So the increase takes effect on December the 1st, and the money carrying it turns up at the very start of January. That gap between the two dates is where the confusion lives. Federal benefits get paid for a month that is already finished. Your December payment covers November, which was priced at the old rate, so the deposit landing in the middle of December looks exactly like the one before it. You check your account and the same figure stares back at you. The obvious conclusion is that the increase went to somebody else. A phone call goes in to complain about a system doing precisely what it was built to do. The first payment carrying the new rate is the one that arrives as January opens. Who does that reach the most? Every single person watching who gets money from the VA or from Social Security, because the calendar runs the same way for both. It bites hardest in the households where the winter budget is planned down to the dollar. A month of waiting on a raise that already exists on paper is a month of going without. Mark the first week of January on something you look at and check the VA deposit then rather than in December. Something worth saying plainly, because I would rather you hear it from me first. Your VA rating stays exactly where it stands through all three of these dates. A denied claim does not reopen itself, and a condition missing from your file will still be missing in January. What moves is the price of what you already hold. A man at 30% stays at 30%. And the row he reads from is simply worth more than it was last winter. Anybody telling you otherwise is selling something. Check your VA rating letter if you want the number in front of you. Two things are probably nagging at you by now, and both deserve a straight answer. Maybe there is no VA rating on your file whatsoever. October the 1st still reaches you through the education rates your dependent can draw. December the 1st still reaches your household if any VA pension or survivor payment comes into it. Now, say a housing grant was turned down on you years back. The ceiling behind that decision has climbed every October since, and the cost of the work climbed alongside it. A new application gets looked at fresh. Nobody treats it as an appeal of the old one. A refusal from years back leaves no mark that follows you into the new one. A third thing comes up almost as often, and it is worth answering here. Say you rent or you live in your daughter's house, so a VA grant and toward adapting a home sounds like somebody else's benefit. The second, smaller grant was built for that exact situation, and the home does not have to be in your name. What matters is that you live there and that the work suits your disability. A ramp on your daughter's porch counts the same as a ramp on your own. Ask about that second grant by name when you call. Not one thing you heard today ever arrived in your mailbox as a letter, and most of the rest of it never does either. That is the reason the Unclaimed Money Playbook for Veterans got written with a guide for your family included. Same plain words as this video and the steps laid out page by page. You will find it linked under this video. On a television set, raise your phone toward the square code you see and it opens by itself. Back to the VA calendar. Put the three together and the year gets easy to hold in your head. October the 1st lifts what Congress funds by the budget year, and the housing ceiling is the largest number in that group. December the 1st lifts the compensation tables, the pension tables, and the survivor payment, all tied by law to Social Security. The start of January is when the money actually appears in the account, which is why December statements confuse so many people every winter. 4 things are worth doing before the winter, and none of them cost $1. Ask for the current budget year grant ceiling before you accept any quote on adapting a home. Get that figure from the VA rather than from your builder. Keep your December and January statements where you can lay them side by side, because 2 months of paper answers the question faster than any phone call. Tell the agency about a change in your income or your household while it is fresh, since a current file will not turn into a debt later on. Sit down with an accredited representative at the American Legion, the DAV, or a county veterans office. Let somebody read your file for free, page by page. Some ground rules about this channel because they matter. Federal rules that anybody can read put into ordinary words is all that happens here. Advice on law, on medicine, or on your finances sits outside what I do, and no job at the VA or at any other agency belongs to me. Every number quoted today moves again on its own schedule, and the file in your own drawer may say something different from any example given here. Whatever affects the money you receive is worth checking straight with the agency or with an accredited representative who charges you nothing. If a stranger contacts you out of the blue and wants a claim number, bank details, or a password, end that conversation. That call did not come from this channel, and the government did not make it either. 3 dates, 3 different piles of money, and the first of them is already gone by this year. Keep your statements where you can find them and look after yourself out there. Sonny Boone.